So here we have the 8BITM8 hardware Bitcrusher from midierror, and its little buddy, the super double smash mute momentary arcade bundle of fun. Now up front, I'd like to thank midierror for sending this over, and I'll clarify that even though there's a nice DivKid head on there, or rather fugly DivKid head, however you look at it, this is nothing to do with me. I was surprised with a custom finish on this thing, and there's some images on screen that show you some of the custom paint splatters and two-tone colours that you can get the enclosure made in. So midierror say that the 8BITM8 is a Bitcrusher pedal inspired by the tonal qualities of vintage samplers, MPCs and the love of lo-fi sounds. And hardware Bitcrushers are kind of harder to come by. Most effects tend to be downsamplers masquerading as Bitcrushers, but this is proper Bitcrushing that deals in 8, 6 or 4 bits of digital audio data on that switch. We then have a dry-wet control, so we can blend from a fully wet to a fully dry sound. We can downsample and adjust the internal clock rate of this processing. And we get a simple, non-resonant low-pass filter to just take the edge off some of the top-end harshness, if we wish. And we have the little buddy that I mentioned, the super double smash buttons. Lots of ways to use it. It's got a really nice, crunchy sound as you would expect. Timing index is on screen, so do skip around, and let's dive in. So here we're exploring some nice formant sounds, vocal YOI kind of sound, and very glottal, throat-like sounds. The output of my synth voice is coming into 8BITM8 and out. And while we're at it, let's get some synth sequence stuff thrown into there too. So here I'm going to play around with bit crushing and downsampling my drums. And throwing the snare drum output into some delay. It's a nice fun setup to throw one of the drum sounds into effects. Bitcrush the rest. Let's explore the sound without touching the drums here. Got some pretty neutral but fully wet settings. Just this push and colour to it we can drive. More volume in. Going 6-bit. Here this noise starts to increase. Ooh, and the 4-bit. Take a quick look and listen on the scope to how 8BITM8 sounds, with a relatively low triangle wave coming in, and instantly shapes to some nice skewed, semi-rounded square-like tones. Now I'm fully wet, I'm not downsampling and I'm not filtering the wet signal, and we'll flick through this 8-bit setting to 6, to 4, which has this more noise and grit. We can filter that. Very simple non-resonant low pass, which just takes that harsher edge off. Downsampling. So here's making that triangle wave dynamic with a basic looping envelope and VCA. You can get that kind of fuzz and fizz that just hangs on the end of a decaying note. More so when it's 4-bit. So here we're going to play around with some kind of more experimental sound design, twanging and playing with springs on this spring reverb, into the Bitcrusher, through this toggle, and into some delay. Now crushing this, nice 4-bit crushing with some downsample. It translates all of this kind of metallic foley sound into these nice digital and without the effects. So here I'm playing around with 8BITM8 in momentary mode. So instead of latching on and off, it's on as it's depressed or pressed, and then off immediately. So here I was going for a kind of lo-fi, more retro, cheap kind of reverb sound, if you like. Kind of lo-fi, not that much kind of fidelity to it, wash of reverb. Now muting my dry sound, which is already affected, but the one that isn't going into 8BITM8. Without it, here's the dry sound, which does have some bits of noise and reverb and other things already going on, but sending that into 8BITM8 and 8BITM8 back on itself with some feedback around my mixer and send and returns. Gives me this nice grungy background texture that's kind of harsh enough to push through the drier sounds, but quiet enough to just sit underneath them. Just this character, and character, noise, texture, depth in mixes is often what I'm looking for. And now this is filtered back and a bit subtler. Really like just this odd noise. I'd probably record it separately and EQ it, but I'm going to carry on playing around with this idea of grunging up effects for background textures with the 8BITM8. So that's it for this video on the 8BITM8 and the super smashable arcade buttons from midierror. Check out the links to both products in the description. And you can join my growing community at patreon.com/DivKid. Leave a comment and a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Cheers for watching.